Wanna hear a funny story about a poor sucker? You'll want to stay till the end. Michael and Yoshira lived in a world where the Supreme Court deemed it illegal to smile in public. It had been years since either of them had allowed themselves to smile, as doing so could lead to imprisonment. Or worse. The enforcers of this law were a group of clowns, a posse that roamed the streets, wielding their painted faces and oversized shoes as weapons against any who dared to disobey. They would pounce on anyone they saw smiling, shouting and jeering until the offender hung their head in shame. Now here's what you should know. Michael and Yoshira met in secret, hidden away from the eyes of the clowns and their harsh laws. They'd fallen in love, and despite the constant danger, they'd found happiness in each other's company. One day, Michael and Yoshira were walking together when they saw a group of children playing in a nearby park. The children were laughing and smiling, their innocence and joy a stark contrast to the grim reality of their world. Yoshira couldn't help but smile at the sight, and before Michael could stop her, she was caught by the clown enforcers. They circled her, their painted faces contorted in anger as they demanded she wipe the smile off her face. Yoshira pleaded with them, but they were relentless. They dragged her away, leaving Michael alone in the park, heartbroken and terrified for the fate of his beloved. Weeks went by without any word from Yoshira. Michael searched for her relentlessly, but she had been taken to a prison camp, where she was forced to work in the factories until her hands bled. One day, Michael received a message that Yoshira was dying. He rushed to the prison camp, desperate to see her one last time. When he arrived, he found her lying on a makeshift bed, her body emaciated and her spirit broken. Michael sat by her side, holding her hand and trying to hold back tears. Yoshira looked up at him, a small smile on her face despite her suffering. "I'm so sorry," she whispered, her voice barely audible. Michael's heart broke as he watched Yoshira take her last breath. He knew he'd never be the same without her. As he left the prison camp, Michael was overcome with grief and anger. He had to do something to honor Yoshira's memory and rebel against the unjust laws that had taken her life. So, he stood in the middle of the street, his face set in determination as the clown enforcers approached him. They surrounded him, their painted faces sneering and taunting him. But Michael refused to be cowed. He stood tall and smiled, a rebellion against the tyranny that had taken everything from him. The enforcers lunged at him, their weapons ready, but Michael stood his ground, his smile growing wider with every passing moment. And as the enforcers closed in, I closed my eyes, my smile a final act of defiance against a world that robbed me of everything I held dear.